Friends, we have a big job ahead of us. We have a responsibility as Baha'i youth to our fellow youth. To quote our beloved guardian, Shoghi Effendi, it is our duty to rear their spiritual feelings and enlighten their hearts with the light of guidance which has been shed upon us by the Master. Don't we all feel compelled to want to accomplish this fact over the next 2 years? Friends, the time is now.
Gathered at the University of Illinois Assembly Hall in Champaign-Urbana, more than 3,000 Baha'i youth from all parts of the United States and 14 foreign countries met for the 4th Baha'i National Youth Conference. With the 2-year youth program underway, and with less than 2 years remaining in the 5-year plan, this history-making gathering met from June 29th to July 3rd, 1977, to consult on preparation for a life of service and the task of arising now to win the goals. The presence of 3 hands of the cause of God, members of the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States, the Continental Board of Counselors, and auxiliary board members underscored the high purpose and vital significance of the conference. A message from the Universal House of Justice, read by Dr. Daniel Jordan, signaled the importance of this meeting.
Friends, I have a wonderful message which just came not too long ago from the Universal House of Justice to this conference, which I would like to read now. It says, "Warmest greetings, attendants, 4th American National Baha'i Youth Conference. Recall with profound admiration impressive contribution made by Baha'i youth to onward march of faith throughout the world. Fervently express hope your deliberations will inspire you respond to challenge of 2-year youth program with enthusiasm, vigor, audacity, perseverance, enabling you achieve victories far outshining previous exploits. Supplicating Baha'u'llah bestow his unfailing guidance, bestow his unfailing guidance, bountiful blessings on this important gathering, and shower his divine confirmations on each one of you. Assure you our deepest love. Universal House of Justice."
Dr. Feroz Kazemzadeh, Vice Chairman of the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States, presented an overview on the role of Baha'i youth in a changing world. Dr. Kazemzadeh enumerates the characteristics of youth, crucial to the success of any world-embracing enterprise.
The youth are the least committed to tradition, and freedom from tradition is a very, very important point today. Because the majority of traditions which we have inherited from the past lead us back to forms which we ought to have outlived. The youth have a superabundance of vital energy. And without vital energy, of course, nothing at all can be achieved. The youth are the most willing to experiment and to try. Moreover, the youth are willing to take risks. They are willing to put their energies where their faith is. Now today, the role of youth in serving the faith is as significant as ever. Their adventurous spirit, their vigor, their alertness, their optimism, all these qualities they have shown repeatedly before, And it is these qualities that qualify them, as Shoghi Effendi said, to play an active part in arousing the interest and in securing the allegiance of their fellow youth.
Quoting from the Advent of Divine Justice, he reminds us of the Guardian's call to youth in America.
No greater demonstration can be given to the peoples of both continents of the youthful vitality and the vibrant power animating the life and the institution of the nascent faith of Baha'u'llah than an intelligent, persistent, and effective participation of the Baha'i youth of every race, nationality, and class in both the teaching and administrative spheres of Baha'i activity.
Relating this opening address to the events which are to follow, Dr. Kazemzadeh speaks to the overall theme of the conference.
The most important thing is to plan a life in such a way that every stage of one's life helps the progress of the faith. And the progress of the faith, in turn, has a mysterious capacity to redound to the progress of one's own spiritual and, yes, friends, even of one's material life.
The guest of honor at the 4th Baha'i National Youth Conference was Hand of the Cause of God, Ali Akbar Furotan. In the first of his 2 addresses to the gathering, Mr. Furotan speaks to the friends in moving language about the unique responsibility of youth.
Now, because you are young people, I quote 2-3 quotations, short ones, from the Guardian about you. That you are the main power, as Dr. Kazemzadeh last night, in very beautiful of his talk, he explains to you your energy, your background, your mind, your heart, everything of you is more ready to arise, to teach the cause of Baha'u'llah than others. That is, we say, the youth. You are our hope. You are our future. This is not exaggeration. It's not compliment to you. This is the fact. See what the Guardian says. The responsibility of the Baha'i youth is very great indeed. The responsibility of the Baha'i youth is very great indeed, as they constitute the generation of Baha'is who will be called upon to help reconstruct the world. Do you think the Guardian used these terms, these words, without, God forbid, without meaning in it? They should devote their lives to the supreme objective of perfecting themselves as members in Baha'u'llah's divine world order. Another short quote. It is to the youth that the Guardian is today eagerly looking. You see, this is not Mr. Furotan says that you think, well, he came to participate in the youth conference, he's flattering, he is saying something that we will be happy. No. This is the Guardian's words. It is to the youth that the Guardian is today eagerly looking, and it is upon their shoulders that he is laying all the responsibility for the promotion of the faith. Theirs is the opportunity to arise and serve to their utmost this great cause of God. The Guardian put all this heavy burden on your shoulder, not on mine. You see? It's good to be young, but you have so many responsibilities.
Later, Mr. Furotan speaks of the stirring example of the youthful Badi who suffered martyrdom for his faith.
Who was Janab Badi? The messenger of Baha'u'llah, who took Baha'u'llah's message to Nasiruddin Shah, and who was martyred in such way that never history shows that. He was 17 years old only. 17. And Ruhollah, son of Warqa, who was martyred with his father, he was 12 years old. This is the destination of the youth. You cannot avoid that. That is, you must not, excuse me, I am not the preacher, I am not the advisor, just I am the reminder. I remind you. I remind you, don't waste your energy, your time, your opportunity for nothing.
The conference was further blessed by the presence of Hand of the Cause of God, Zikrullah Kadem, who also speaks of the martyrdom of Bahá'í during his presentation on heroism.
A great man, the son of a person, one of the dignitaries that in the time of the martyrdom of Bahá'í was present, right after his martyrdom, he has written on the margin of one of the books that the executioner, the Farashbashi of Nasiruddin Shah, said it was exciting, it was unbelievable, that audacity, that courage of Bahá'í, that the enemies of the cause, they were astonished. In fact, Baha'u'llah gave him that courage. He said he gave him the courage that he could face the whole mankind. That's what we, my beloved children, are to follow in spreading the cause of God. When Baha'u'llah was there in Constantinople, he revealed one of his tablets and he said, with these 12 people, I'll overthrow the kingdom, which he did. The Caliphate, the Sultanate, fell. Now, Baha'u'llah has not 12 people. Right in this hall, a few thousand youth, full of energy, love for Baha'u'llah. I don't know what you can do. I wish I told you, that the youth would return. How I wish I could return to the youth to that age. Alas, it's too late for me, but yours is the opportunity. Abdul Baha said how he wished to go on foot and go to all these regions. And then he says, it's so heartbreaking. He said, alas, I cannot do. Please God, you may achieve it. Friends, please God, you, the Baha'i youth, that Baha'u'llah has showered his bounties upon you and chose you on this glorious day, you may achieve it. I wish you all victory and glories from Baha'u'llah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Mildred Mataheta speaks on behalf of the International Goals Committee, calling on youth to plan for service to the faith through pioneering.
Our committee has a dream, a beautiful dream. We are dreaming of an army of trained people, pure in heart, dedicated to the service of God, who will go out to the underdeveloped countries to help them to develop their resources in health, in agriculture, in every phase that a nation must undertake to rise from a very primitive state to a partner in the world economy. We are dreaming of this army of dedicated Baha'is who will go to these countries and serve without accepting bribes. This is very uncommon, believe me. Who will be moral people and who will make a mark on the world with their faith and with their living service. We are dreaming that dream, and we are hoping that all of you will begin to plan towards that dream. You're young. The page of your life is clean and white. Be careful what you write on it, so that when the moment comes, when you leave this planet, and believe me, it comes in a twinkling of an eye, you will not say, I am so sorry I did not do this or that. All you can take with you is the service you have performed, and nothing else. Youth goes away. Money you must leave behind. Everything you must leave in this world that is material. You can take with you only a record of pure service. Begin now. Abdu'l-Baha said to the American Baha'is, as ye have faith, so shall your powers and blessings be.
Dr. Dorothy Nelson, Treasurer of the National Spiritual Assembly, focuses on one of the main conference themes in her talk on Careers in the Cause of God. She presents a broad view of Baha'i participation.
Now, the Baha'i youth have been told by the Universal House of Justice that there are 3 great fields of service which lie before them, in which they will simultaneously be remaking the character of human society and preparing themselves for the work they can undertake later in their lives. I'm sure you all know what they are. First, the foundation of all other accomplishments is their study of the teachings, the spiritualization of their lives, and the forming of their characters in accordance with the standards of Baha'u'llah. Second is service. It's teaching the faith, particularly to their fellow youth, among whom are some of the most open and seeking minds in the world, says the House of Justice. The third field of service is the preparation of youth for their later years.
In addition to these broad fields of service to the faith, Dr. Nelson also recommended specific steps for youth to consider in planning their futures.
No matter how well life goes for you, you will never, quote, arrive. You will only be on your way. So first, you need some goals. If you don't know where you are going, you may wind up somewhere else. Second, selecting your goals is a matter of choosing which direction you want to go, not choosing a specific place at which you want to end up. Life is in the running and not in the arriving. You are continually going to be progressing on to the other worlds of God. Third, the possible directions that you can take depend almost entirely on the number of assets you have going for you. Consequently, to expand your choices, you should be continually cultivating your assets. You will have to do it. As the fellow once said, people who want milk should not seat themselves on a stool in the middle of a field in the hopes that the cow will back up to them. Fourth, with a few exceptions, your achievements will be won gradually, not overnight, and you should proceed accordingly. And fifth, more than any other factor, your job, or more generally your career, is going to determine how you live. Thus, give it a great deal of attention and thought. We know that work is worship. Make it the best that it can be. And lastly, basic to everything else is your health. It is an instrument of life. And have fun. Abdu'l-Baha said, be happy, laugh a lot, and if you don't like what you're doing now, go back to school and increase your options.
Youth keynote speaker Daniel Cho offers his reflections on how living the life is an assistance to our careers.
Through the teachings, we know that we must excel in our work, and we do excel in our work. We try to exhibit the distinctive characters out of life, service to mankind, and we work towards it, and we have direction, and we don't wander. And another thing the faith gives us is happiness. Abdu'l-Baha says, this is the age of the blessed perfection. If we are not happy in this age, for what other age do we wait? For what other time do we look? It's this knowledge of the time we live in, and the situation of mankind, and the most great peace ahead, that gives us an optimism, a happiness through which we excel in our work, in our very lives. So, we must be a living sacrifice to the cause of Baha'u'llah. Abdu'l-Baha has said, service and love for mankind is unity with God. Now that we know our purpose, our direction, deciding about careers, education, should be much, much easier, because we can see each direction, each pathway in light of this purpose. And through prayer, meditation, and action, we will take the correct path to service of mankind.
The contrast between present-day society and the Baha'i world of the future was pointed out by Dr. Hussein Danesh, a member of the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of Canada. His address, Youth, Their Identity and Service to Mankind, reminds us of the reality of man, which young Baha'is must grasp in order to carry forward our work in the world.
What is the reality of man? One of the first responsibilities that a Baha'i youth has, and by that matter any youth has, is to come into grips with the fact that man has a spiritual nature. The spiritual nature of man, the basic goodness of human being, the continuation of life of man beyond this life. The fact that this life on this planet is only a part of a much longer journey. Those facts have to be understood by every young individual. And when I talk about young, I mean 3 years old and 4 years old and 5 years old and older. They have to understand these principles if they want to sit back and be relaxed in the work of their everyday activities. However, if they are going to carry with themselves the burden of the fear of the end, then they are not going to be able to put all of their energies on the very important tasks that every Baha'i has in this world.
Dr. Danesh speaks of the two ingredients which characterize our adolescent society and how a Baha'i community will alter these.
Competition and power have been the two signs of our society for a long, long time. As a matter of fact, in the history of humanity, always these two have been the principal modes of communication between people. Who is more strong and who can become more strong? Power and competition. Therefore, majority of the young people in our times also are very attracted to power and competition. But the Baha'i youth have to study the writings and to see what kind of a society we are trying to create. We are trying to help humanity to move from its level of adolescence to its level of maturity, collectively. In order to create such an environment, it is extremely important to realize that what would help the adolescent to move from his power orientation and his competition to level of maturity is to replace power with love and replace competition with cooperation. Now, in the Baha'i community that we want to establish, at the very core of the Baha'i community is going to be trust. What do we trust? We trust in nobility of man, in lack of existence of evil, in the mercifulness and justice of God. These are the things that we trust. What kind of a love we establish between people, therefore, is that type of universal love that has that point of attraction that all goes to Baha'u'llah. In that kind of environment, therefore, where the trust in that setting is ruling, in that kind of a situation, you do not need to use your power for the purpose of either protecting yourself or proving yourself superior over others.
As the conference continued, there were special features each afternoon at scattered locations across the campus. Workshops and seminars brought Baha'i professionals in many fields to consult with youth on setting the pace in a changing world. These small groups complemented the keynote addresses on the main topics of the conference. Another major conference theme was addressed by National Spiritual Assembly Chairman Dr. Daniel Jordan, who identified freedom, individuality, and personal growth as the new expectations for marriage. Here he considers the foundation of that institution.
Let us examine now the Baha'i wedding vow. It says, "Verily, we will all abide by the will of God." You know, in the old traditional wedding ceremony, the woman has to agree to obey the man until death do them part, which has inspired some people to facilitate the death process. Now, can you imagine why that won't work in the Baha'i faith? A faith that professes the equality of men and women? You're not going to have these women obeying these men. Are you? That's why both are going to obey God. Now, look what that does right away. First of all, when two people decide to obey the same principles, there is the basis for their unity, which is the chief ingredient missing in those marriages that fall apart, of course. Secondly, since one isn't tied to the other, they are free. Now, you know, I'm not going to go into a big discourse about the dangers of romance, which is a kind of an emotional attachment that feels good until things go wrong. And I'm not even saying that's an illegitimate element present in the relationship between two people who plan to get married and who do get married. What I am saying, however, is that attachment to another human being, particularly the one you plan to marry, is not a safe foundation for a marital union. In fact, you know, Baha'u'llah says we must all become detached. If you are attached, you are not free. By definition, you're bound to something. And since as individual human beings we are imperfect, why would we attach ourselves to an imperfection? Doesn't make any sense at all. Freedom comes from detachment. And Baha'u'llah says detachment means attachment to God through Baha'u'llah. Then everything else begins to fall into place, because Baha'u'llah says, if you love me, I will love you. And when that is right and good and whole, you will be a free person. And free people, in the spiritual sense, are not threatened people. They are secure. They are safe. They are then free to love the person they are married to.
Speaking of the Baha'i family, Dr. Jordan emphasizes the importance of proper child rearing.
To give birth to and raise a generation of children right is absolutely essential for for carrying forward an ever-advancing civilization. In other words, out of Baha'i families, out of Baha'i marriages must come forth children who are raised in such a way that they are the most stable human element in present-day civilization. Without that, the rest of the world will not come running to our communities when things get worse than they are now. And there are literally millions of decent parents out there who see their children going down the tubes of the old world order and would jump in the direction of any community that has found the secret of family unity, harmony, and love, and who understands the true nature of the marital bond as the basic strength of that family unit.
Following up on the same subject, youth keynote speaker Roya Amon highlighted the concept of equal rights and privileges in marriage. She quotes from the Master.
A spiritual marriage depends upon the equal participation and sharing of both man and woman. There can be no double standards for men and women. So see, there is the answer. And from now on, men will tell us, you can't take all these beautiful opportunities of seeing my child grow. I have the right to see my children grow too. And also the woman will say, gee, isn't it beautiful world? Now I can experience the outside world and bring new and beautiful information for my family. So you see, these two are getting now together and bringing more into the family than when it was a one-sided idea.
The world's been waiting for thousands of years for the promised one to come. He will teach us how to end all war, that mankind may live as one. And now he's here, he is finally come in his full glory and majesty. Oh, with a new name he's come to lead us all to our spiritual destiny. He brought the master plan to unite the world. He brought a message for rulers and kings. Oh, he spoke about justice and he spoke about love and spoke with authority. And now he's here, he is finally come in his full glory and majesty. Oh, the glory of God has come to lead us all to our spiritual destiny. Well, it's the day of joy, it's the day of hope, but there's still a lot of work to be done. But rest assured in your heart that the day has arrived for mankind to live at home. And now he's here, he has finally come in his full glory and majesty. Oh, the glory of God has come to lead us all to our spiritual destiny. Up to our spiritual destiny. To our spiritual destiny.
Dr. Sarah Martin Pereira, a member of the Continental Board of Counselors, speaking to the youth on maintaining a Baha'i perspective, makes them aware of their special station.
I like to think that the Baha'i youth are being called, you in your turn, to a higher form and a higher dimension of activity than we in the passing generations have ever been able to experience. Have you heard the story about the fact that Abdu'l-Baha, when he was visiting in Teaneck, New Jersey, the area that we refer to now as the cabin, that he was seen walking up and down that Sunday afternoon in June, late June, and as if contemplative or meditative, until he came toward the house, toward the cabin, and then one of the believers approached him and said, "What were you doing, Abdu'l-Baha, strolling up and down so long, there alone at the edge of the gardens?" And he is purported to have said, "I was calling to the souls of the yet unborn generations. So I would take that to mean that he was calling to you and to me, calling us out of the realm of invisibility into the realm of visibility.
The necessity of facing up to the most challenging issue is an important element of Dr. Pereira's talk.
Now, the Guardian, in the Advent of Divine Justice, talks about the double crusade that Baha'is must raise up. He emphasizes the fact that first we must turn in upon ourselves and demonstrate a rectitude of conduct and a holiness and a chastity that are diametrically opposed to the moral laxity and licentiousness which defile the character of a not inconsiderable proportion of its citizens. And then we must move from that level of development into an interracial fellowship, completely purged from the curse of racial prejudice which stigmatizes the vast majority of its people. Abdu'l-Baha had pointed out during his visit to the United States in 1912 and 13 how interracial fellowship would serve as a magnet to attract the other virtues that we're trying to build in ourselves as Baha'is. Diversity in the human race, the human family, should be the cause of love and harmony, as it is in music, where many different notes blend together in the making of a perfect chord. So we're along the way, and we can pat ourselves on the back because we've made great progress. But then, if we're realistic, we'll say, or I'll say to you, you of the younger generation, lift high the torch and go farther than we have been able to go, though our intentions are pure.
2 months prior to the launching of the now historic Victory Weekend, Hand of the Cause of God William Sears made a special appearance at the conference to explain the vital role youth must play. In a stirring fashion, he extols the importance of teaching.
Someone has said, if you don't feel as close to God as you used to, who moved? There's no way to measure the teaching you will do between now and Rizwan. No way. Beloved Guardian said if we knew who we were and we knew who Baha'u'llah was, we would fall to the ground with our foreheads to the ground, weeping tears of joy just to be alive for a moment and to breathe once in this day. That the saints and poets and all the holy ones of the past long to come back for a moment and serve Baha'u'llah. And we would be like Ezekiel and Daniel, fall to the ground, numb at the wonder of the glory of God. It's a tremendous thing that we are doing. God should help us. We're building His kingdom. We have a right to expect His help. And you, beloved youth, can build yourself a glorious spiritual legacy for all the worlds of God. Not because you're Georgia Jones Baha'i youth, not because you're Tim Washington Baha'i youth, but because of the youth in Georgia Jones and Tim Washington. Baha'u'llah says, life like a breath of wind flees the earth. What refuge then for a fruitless soul? Baha'u'llah says, even as the swiftness of lightning, your days shall pass and your body shall be laid to rest beneath a canopy of dust. What can ye then achieve? How can ye atone for your past failure? You won't be youth forever. I know, I'm an old man. How do you think I feel when and those like me, when I read these words of the beloved Guardian? Let teaching be the paramount and most urgent duty of every Baha'i. Let us make it the dominating passion of our life. Are we fully conscious of our responsibilities? Do we realize the urgency, the sacredness, the immensity, the glory of our task? Redouble your efforts. Keep your vision clear, your hopes undimmed, your determination unshaken, so that the power of God within us may fill all the world with its glory. Beloved friends, I was 14 years old when Shoghi Effendi, our beloved Guardian, wrote those words, a youth, very young. So I entreat you with the words of Baha'u'llah, appreciate the value of the days in which you live. They will come to you no more, and you will never have a like opportunity. And may you never have to say to yourself, where are the songs of spring? Where are they? Or that time of life thou mayest in me behold, when yellow leaves or none earth, where late the sweet bird sang. Beloved friends, Baha'i youth, the birds are singing in the branches of your tree of life during these precious years of your youth. The nightingale of Baha'u'llah, nightingale of paradise, is singing with a sweeter and a louder song in your hearts now than you may ever hear again. So this is the time for action in your youth.
Making a second appearance, Hand of the Cause of God Ali Akbar Furatan calls for the friends to conform their characters to the principles of the faith. Referring to Abdul Baha, he says,
You are, he says, the book of God, always open before the eyes of people. If you name yourself Baha'i, again I say I'm not the preacher, just I remind you. If you name yourself a Baha'i and you accepted this beautiful title that you are a Baha'i, immediately it will be written on your chest, on your head, and everywhere. Because the people would know you are Baha'i, and you would say that you are Baha'i. They will watch you very closely. They wanted to know what kind of people are Baha'is. If you are a Baha'i, a real Baha'i, even one person could teach many people. They would say, look at the Baha'is, really. The Baha'is are wonderful people. Look at him. Look at her. I saw a Baha'i. Really, they are wonderful people. God forbid, if not this, something wrong, it would happen to you. Something wrong. They would say, these Baha'is are this kind of people. They talk too much. They talk too much. They can't show their example. Even if they met only one, they would say, we know Baha'is in plural. They are so and so, so and so, so and so. That is, Abdul Baha says in many of his tablets, if you want to teach the cause of God, show your example. How many times in the same audience it was repeatedly said, and maybe you are tired of hearing this, but really it is very important to be repeated again. Abdul Baha says, if you want to teach the cause of God, don't talk. Because people are tired of talking. And Abdul Baha says, everybody says we are good, everybody says we must have peace, everybody says we must be kind to the people. But they need action, they need examples from you, Abdul Baha says, and the Guardian. That was, they say, the best teacher is your actions, your deeds. Show Baha'u'llah's teachings in your action, in your life. Live Baha'i life. We say many times, be Baha'i life, all right. But it is so much important that it must be repeatedly said and said and said.
In a special presentation given by the National Youth Committee, Farid Khalili offers further encouragement and a message from the Guardian.
We are not going to stop here, you know. As a matter of fact, we are not going to stop at all. We are sure that every youth in this country will shine in every stage of life. You, the youth, whom the Guardian addresses the following. The activities, hope, and ideals of the Baha'i youth in America, as well as in all other parts of the world, are close and dear to my heart. Upon them rests the supreme and challenging responsibility to promote the interests of the cause of God in the days to come, to coordinate its worldwide activities, to extend its scopes, to safeguard its integrity, to exalt its virtues, defines its purpose, and translates its ideals and aims into memorable and abiding achievements. There is a mighty task at once holy, stupendous, and enthralling. May the spirit of Baha'u'llah protect, inspire, and sustain them in the prosecution of their divinely appointed task. Thank you.
The youth of the conference responded generously to the Guardian's challenge by sending as a group a cable to the Universal House of Justice, promising that each Baha'i in attendance would enroll one new member in the ranks of our faith by Nowruz 1978. Youth Committee Member Carl Lee.
The following is the cable sent on behalf of the attendants of the 4th Baha'i National Youth Conference to the Universal House of Justice. It was sent today. Midpoint 4th Baha'i National Youth Conference, over 2,800 attending, extend deepest gratitude your message. Warmest appreciation attendance, 3 hands cause God, Ali Akbar Furutan, William Sears, Zekrullah Khadem, Continental Counselor Sarah Pereira, auxiliary board members, their assistants. Baha'i, non-Baha'i youth exploring themes, distinctive characteristics Baha'i life, career planning, preparation, marriage, and family life. Youth promise, each bring one new Baha'i into faith by Nowruz. Applaud News Victories, Oregon, California. Evidence Youth Commitment, Speedy Accomplishment, 2-year youth program. Supplicating Blessed Beauty, assistance, arduous tasks ahead. Thank you.
The National Youth Committee eagerly awaits word that this pledge has been fulfilled, that the challenge has been met, and the victories assured. With the support of the Baha'i youth across the United States, the committee looks forward to the achievement of all the goals of the 2-year youth program and to another successful youth conference in the future, where we may all listen with pride as the announcement is made that the number of Baha'i youth has doubled. The National Spiritual Assembly, in its letter of Nowruz 1977, presenting the 2-year youth program, offers this encouragement. All these objectives can be achieved, and in some instances surpassed, if each of you will meditate on their import, select what he or she will do, pray, act, and persevere in such action. Immediately available to you as your loving supporters and well-wishers are the instruments of Baha'u'llah's evolving administrative order, spiritual assemblies, auxiliary board members, and their assistants. We hope that you will not only draw upon their support, but that you will also master the administrative principles of the faith, so as to be able in turn to fortify the foundations of that order. Dr. David Claiborne, Secretary of the National Baha'i Youth Committee, inspires the youth to win every goal of the plan.
Friends, we have a big job ahead of us. We have a responsibility as Baha'i youth to our fellow youth. To quote our beloved guardian, Shoghi Effendi, it is our duty to rear their spiritual feelings and enlighten their hearts with the light of guidance which has been shed upon us by the Master. Let me repeat that. It is our duty to rear their spiritual feelings and enlighten their hearts. Don't we all feel compelled to want to accomplish this fact over the next 2 years? What is required to accomplish the victories that must be won in the remaining time? I feel we must become self-starters for Baha'u'llah. That's right, self-starters. We must come away from this conference with the internal energy and strength to serve the cause. We cannot wait for others to give us our direction. We cannot expect answers to come from a society on the verge of collapse. The energy for accomplishment of our goals must come from within, undergirded by the fundamental principles of our faith. Shoghi Effendi has stated, "It is the individual believer on whom in the last resort depends the fate of the entire community. Without his support, at once wholehearted, continuous, and generous, every measure adopted and every plan formulated is foredoomed to failure." This is what we mean by being a self-starter for Baha'u'llah. Friends, the time is now for each of you to react quickly within the words of the Universal House of Justice. Use audacity, perseverance, vigor, and enthusiasm to achieve the goals of the 2-year youth program. I thank you.